Okay, greetings, dear Cancer. This one is for you. That's you, Cancer, over here. This is Tarot Lumination. This is your general report for January 2018. That's what we call this time period. I guess it's appropriate to say Happy New Year and welcome to Cancer. Now, routine stuff, cards are already well shuffled in advance, but we're going to the last second so that you're a witness. No reversals, okay? Sorry about that. There's just not enough time, and it makes it so complicated. So, next thing, routine stuff, watch your sun, moon, and rising if you've got all of those, and reinterpret the whole thing and turn it into your own story, okay? You're smart, Cancer, you can figure it out. You've done it before. And do the cross-watching for special people in your life. Who knows? Sometimes that helps. Let's see, what else? Okay, the routine. Okay, we've been doing this for, well, actually all the signs. Stay there, don't go away. It's kind of a big deal. For you, Cancer. Okay, let's start this way up. I've been using this doodle for all the readings. So Cancer, you might have been, let's just put it this way. Cancer, for the last few years, you might have been dealing with very serious issues regarding health, okay? And you're finally coming out of it. Maybe it's just been an unrelenting, grueling thing, having to relearn practices and over again, refining, cleansing, purifying. But it's over now, okay? We're starting here in January with this massive new Capricorn new moon in the middle of the month. Look at this, okay? There it is, January 16th-ish, 2018. It's in Capricorn, and look at this, look at this. We got Venus, Sun, Moon, Pluto, Mercury, and Saturn all piled up right here in Capricorn. So a couple of things. First of all, for you, Cancer, it would look sort of like this if this was your, like a solar chart or something. And that would be you over here, all right? And look where this is all happening. Oh, it's in your 7th house of relationships, fundamental primary relationships, like one-on-one business partners, uh, marriage, okay? And your core primary relationships. I'm not talking about, let's say, romance over here, or friends and buddies over here, or the deep intimacy of marriage over here. We're just talking about the actual marriage itself, marriage type energy. So this is kind of a big deal for you, Cancerians. It means a lot of new starts and new beginnings in that part of your life, perhaps in ways that you've maybe dreamed of or imagined or never even knew existed. Okay, because it's not going to stop. We're just starting. Okay, it's going to be, especially with Saturn here. Okay, with Saturn, it's the start of a big 3-year cycle. Like, in other words, if this is a clock going backwards, tick, 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 that's 3 years. Okay, 3 years of Saturn going through your 7th house. And at some point, it's going to trigger the energy of relationships in a very profound way, like solidifying the relationships, bringing deep reality checks into the world of your relationships, okay, your primary relationships, locking it down, perhaps getting married, things like that, or not, or just the opposite. So, in case you haven't done your homework. So, because it is Saturn energy, okay, it's like the policeman of the zodiac. So if you're clear to go, you're clear to go. If there's a problem, excuse me, we have to write a ticket. So let's have a look. I think we did all the basic intro stuff and we looked at the doodle. I think that's enough. Let's get going. Cards were well shuffled in advance, but we're going to the very, very last second so that you're a witness. All right. Okay, there we go. Let's cut this up and see where it happens. Okay, I'm just going to do that right in the middle, okay? And then this can go here, this can go here, this can go here. So this would be you at the core, all right? Dear Cancer, your soft, very soft, tender core, okay? Which is like delicious crab meat for all the predators out there. Sorry, I got carried away. I don't mean to scare you. So this is core heart energy that might not even have a language, but it's who you are and what your heart wants and needs right now. This is legacy energy. Call it your past lives, all the doo-doo you had to endure for the last few years, whatever it might be. history, just like whatever it is you're coming in with. This is the energy of the ever present now as you're moving through this thing we call January. It's called this phenomenon called time, where there's a past over here and there's a sort of a future thing over here, but you feel it as the now. And it's in the now, we're getting this snapshot energy of now, where you make your decisions, where you own your power. Okay, consciously making decisions is how you, activate your own evolution. The healing power of decisions is right here. And obviously, we want to make healthy, loving decisions that work for you, Cancer. The most loving thing for you, of course, which is what's best for everybody. Okay. Now, a lot of people like to put their life on autopilot. They don't want to think. They don't want to make decisions. And that's how we end up in a big, big roadside ditch. Okay. Now, you don't want that, obviously, Cancer, especially with this new massive Capricorn vortex coming up. It's very important to be fully conscious and fully aware. So when you make decisions, there are consequences, okay? They have outcomes. If you think that life happens to you, Cancer, and you just react and it's just like, oh no, what do I do now? Then this feels like fate, okay? Now, how much do you want to leave your life to fate? Probably not. So when you're making your decisions over here in the now, there's always a sense in your body of like, well, what if I mess up? As you're gazing into your so-called future. And then what happens if I make a really good decision? That's a good question. Then over here are the prospects. So where does it take us? What are we going to do with all of this energy? And we're going to look at this card in just a moment. Think of it as circumstantial energy, pardon me, which you could translate into weather. And you, Cancer, just like everyone else here, has to make the best of it. Now, I'm hoping you can see here. Please see that as the heart shape, okay? Please see this as your heart at the core. Please see this as a journey, beat by beat by beat by beat of your heart, okay? So what have we got here? Circumstantial energy, strength. Okay, my feeling here for you, Cancer, is that, like it or not, you're kind of in a, what is that? What's that Dickens phrase? It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It's a chance now for you to come like in full alignment with your like egoic self, like the Cancer, the body, the person, the personality that you know and have come to know and love, having come out of the last couple of years with all those, let's say, health issues, habit issues, and having to refine and purify. And now you get the chance to have a complete reboot, restart, especially in the area of fundamental one-on-one relationships, where it's all about the reflection, it's all about the mirror. And in that environment, when you start to really feel it towards the end of January, it's going to be right in your face, where you're realizing that, okay, well, you've done very well to come so far, and that's great, but we have another ongoing journey here through this so-called month. We call it a month. And where this is an opportunity now for you to take things to a new level where you've never had a chance to go before, where you bring your core Cancerian self energy into alignment with the will of heaven, so you become more and more and more of a, let's say, a servant of the will of heaven. In a very effective way. You don't feel like a servant, but you become like a conduit, a messenger, an expressor, a medium, an instrument, whatever they call it, that fancy word, for the will of heaven. So you become aligned with the spirit, so to speak. So it could be an exciting period for you. It could also be quite challenging because, let's say, you're being watched. There's an awful lot of lights, and you'll feel it in the area of relationship, how you will feel it back in your most important relationship, your most important relationships. A lot will be learned through the relationship, through the reflection, the feedback from a relationship about how to bring yourself into higher alignment with spirit. So at the core, we have this. Wow, this card has been showing up a lot. Judgment. Okay, so at your core heart energy, the pulsing center of you, Cancer, it's all about amazing new starts, new beginnings, especially in I feel it's very much to do with this part of your life here, the seventh house. Things like marriage, primary relationships, amazing new opportunities. Like it's like the get out of jail card here, where you are divinely guided, you are divinely blessed, and ushered into a whole new life and a whole new world where everything that you might have known and experienced as pain and suffering or drama or loss and crippling, let's say, ineffectiveness, trauma, whatever it is, it all suddenly seems to have a purpose. And all the good things remind you of how good things can be going down the road, starting again here, especially towards the end of January, and seeing it build up in earlier January, where you have a chance for brand new beginnings, brand new fresh starts right here, especially starting with that new moon, okay? Over there, okay? But it's going to be like this in your chart. All right, so this is an amazing thing for you, Cancer. I'm very happy to see this for you. It might be a very stark experience, like almost like the divine awakening, and you can't predict the details of how this is going to be or where it's going to go, because you're literally starting from scratch. It's like being a newborn in a whole new way of relating, okay, and how others relate to you. So that's a beautiful thing. What are you bringing in with you? Okay. This is another repeat card. In fact, I think another report had this very same card in the very same position. So my feeling here for you, Cancer, is about the power of, it's literally about the healing power of love. But how do we activate this and turn this into a way and a thing that is actually true and functional, where you're living it by example, okay? With the Magician here, my feeling is that you're bringing in an awful lot of good stuff that you've learned through a lot of pain and tragedy and suffering and trauma in many, many different ways, perhaps for long periods of time. But with this sense of purpose and meaning behind it all now, it doesn't seem so bad. In other words, wow, I learned a lot from that. And that's going to be very, very valuable to you in the way like you manifest your future coming in, because you have this awareness now. You're bringing this in with you. You have this degree of awareness about how much power lies in your, let's say, will, in your egoic will. And now the challenge is, can you see the little squiggles at the top, the infinity symbols here? Okay, I'll just point it out. One there and one there. Let's just say that's all to do with spirit and spiritual alignment. This is an amazing opportunity to bring all your talents, gifts, learning, experiences, probably through very, very painful processes. Bring it all into alignment now in ways that work, so that it doesn't just work for you, but it's about like becoming more in alignment with spirit, so that you become part of this big universal thing of the whole planet, like universal love, so to speak. I know that sounds really wooey out there stuff, but it's almost like you have to be a champion of this energy, Cancer. Like, it's like the world is counting on you, but it can't happen. It won't happen except in the context of very significant loving relationships, where you learn a lot through those loving relationships, okay? Because it's like the empowerment comes through the experience of love as received from another, as you share with a significant other. And that's how you learn to take your whole game up to a whole new start, whole new higher level of operating. And you're coming in with a lot of, let's say, knowledge and capacity and power to make that happen. And the question is now, it's the opportunity to make that happen. You're being basically told that this is what has to happen, and it's going to happen in the context of significant relationships. So what about the now? So right now, it might be that either you desire this, or you want this, or you have this. It might be that you've already figured out that you're very lucky in some way, that it's almost by reflection. Like if you, let's say if you put all of this together, all the stuff we just talked about, then this, and this, add it all up together, how it would appear to others is that you could be kind of like a very radiant being who is an inspiration to others, who who is not afraid of getting down there in the dirt with others. Even though the Queen of Wands is a very noble, majestic person, that type of energy, it's very, very radiant in terms of inspiration and guidance and ambition and mission and vision and purpose. But this is not superior. This is like a leader of the people, and they understand that they are of the people themselves. In other words, the Queen of Wands is no better and no superior to any one of anyone else out there. So it makes you, Cancerian, in the now present energy, having a kind of an aura, which it makes very simple and easy for others to relate to you and feel inspired and guided by you, um, as a guiding light for themselves. So it makes a very good use of your powers and your freedom to start from scratch again. So at the same time, it can indicate that this is someone, the type of person that you deserve simply by reflection, like an equivalent version of yourself. Like right now, it would be so awesome for, let's say, Cancer, for you to feel like this and then attract this in return. Okay? That would be so delicious. I'm trying to always bring back this energy of relationship. Okay? In other words, having someone like this in your life who is also a guiding light for you, for whom you can be a guiding light as well, an inspiration to them, and they are an inspiration to you, okay? In very much to do with the energies of leadership, bringing compassion into leadership, bringing great power into leadership, okay? Now, making decisions, this is a lot to handle. This is a lot of power to carry in the physical body, and you're being charged with having to make very big, new, bold changes in these parts of your life. I keep going back to this picture. Gosh. Anyway, making the decisions, okay? Okay, we've got an awful lot of major arcana here, Cancer. So my feeling is that, I don't like to infuse readings with the energy of fate. But that's what I'm feeling a lot here. This is like an energy that's so big and above and beyond you that the only way in some ways to handle it is just to say, well, this is fated. Okay? In other words, let's just say somehow or other, astrologically, you, Cancer, have done a good enough job to get yourself in alignment so that when these big wave energies starting to pick up in your life here, especially over the next 3 years, but you're going to feel it starting here in January 2018. You're going to be in alignment, okay? And you're going to understand that the freedom and the gifts that you have here to start from scratch are incredibly valuable, very, very valuable resources that you can put to the best use, so to speak, for getting in alignment with the will of heaven, so to speak, here. And it's the end of old ways and the beginning of new ways. In other words, however you thought it worked, especially in the area of relationships, wonderful, it's done, it's over, it is completed. You might have had an epic life stories of failure, tragedy, trauma, joys, happiness, all the good stuff, all the bad stuff, just like in a big epic movie. And that part of your life is now officially over. Over, over, over. You can start again with a fresh slate, being forgiven by others, forgiving others. So there is it's like starting absolutely pure, realizing that you're kind of creating a whole new beginning from scratch. And whatever existed before is literally history. It's almost like it doesn't even exist anymore. Of course, you are deeply colored and deeply, let's say, hallmarked and branded and, let's say, loaded up, almost like with a treasure chest full of gifts and understandings of what works, but you also understand a lot about what doesn't work in this department now, and you're going to learn more. So when you're making these decisions, it's on the understanding that all of the so-called fates are working for you. All the elements, earth, air, fire, and water, your environment, your home, your family, your people, your jobs, your skills, your talents, it's all working for you to make really bold, important decisions, almost like you're blessed and which gives you this chance for an amazing new start. Having lived, it's almost like you're so lucky here. It's almost hard for me to put it in words. Like you get a complete reboot for free without having to carry massive, crippling karmic debts forever. It's an amazing sense of liberation, especially when it comes to those relationships. So when you're making these important decisions on the understanding that a way of life is now ending, it has ended, and a whole new life is beginning. How do you do that? Okay, it's simple. You do that on the understanding that like you have massive amounts of love available to you. You are very deeply loving. You are very deeply loved. Okay? It goes both ways with you here, Cancer. So the question is being very, very, very astute, um, figuring out, well, what am I going to do with all this? First of all, love you first. What is it that is most loving for you? And make that happen. Just like write a list. What do I need right now? How am I going to get that? Why do I deserve this? And then put that in the context of a significant relationship. And then see what happens when you make the decision. Because also, when you're making these decisions, what's good for you is best for everybody. But it's also very, very important to make sure you do not squander your love capacity, because love is a resource. Love is as love does. You have a physical body. You only have so many hours in the day, so many gifts and talents that can be expressed um, as the healing power of love, or expressed as love is as love does. So you have to be very judicious, very cautious, very careful, and aware of the love that you share. Okay, the love that you bring into your life, the love that you share with others, the love that others share with you. It's very, very important to be very deeply aware, very grateful of the love in your life, okay, as and when you make these decisions, especially as reflected by what happens to you, your experience in these significant relationships. So what's the consequence here? Well, if you do it right, then you can bring to you what you deserve, which would be something very, let's say, classical. In other words, a relationship. If this is not a relationship reading, by the way, this is just a general energy thing. We have a whole playlist coming for relationships later. But it's so evident here, it's hard to avoid the subject of primary relationships, even including up to marriage here, where when you're making decisions, make decisions about what would work for you in the context of a marriage. Like pretend everything comes down to a marriage. Do you really want to be with that person? If so, why? Do you really want them to be with you? If yes, why? If not, why not? And then be very aware of that, because every decision you make is going to have the kind of energy of marriage and engagement going with it. So it's very significant. It isn't just like, oh, well, this could happen or maybe that. No, it's a big deal. Every single decision that you make is going to have a strong impact on your relationships, and you will feel it through the process of reflection back from the relationship. And that's what it'll feel like. A good decision will feel like I married to myself. I made a good decision that would work in the context of a marriage type relationship. I'm not talking about necessarily husbands and wives here. I'm just talking about the relationship where it's the deep marriage between one soul and another, between that soul and yours, between your soul and theirs. What works? And you will feel it and you'll know it as joyful, as though it was like being happily married. And that's hard energy to capture. You probably noticed that not all marriages are happy, even though it's one of the most important decisions that people make in their lives. You mess up on that. Well, let's have a look. Okay, we're going to go there anyway. Okay. Ooh, with the King of Swords here, it's just like be very, very aware, dear Cancer, that when you're making these decisions, it has profound impact. Okay. It is felt by others. And when they reflect back to you, you will get very clear, stark awareness of the, let's say, the energy of your decisions reflected back to you. So this is the energy of what if. So if you are making, brand new life-changing decisions here and you make a good one, then you will feel it like, yes, I made a very good self-empowering decision that works for me, which is ultimately great for everybody else too. Thank you very much. And then you can like basically, award yourself. You can let's say, what do they do that when they when the king puts the swords on your shoulder and says, I now pronounce you the Earl of blah blah. You can treat yourself that way, but also when you mess up on decisions, you will become starkly aware of what's not working, because this energy will come back as the reciprocal. It'll say, excuse me, dear Cancer, what on earth do you think you were doing just then? Not appropriate. Thank you very much. You're getting demoted, or you're going to have to stand in the corner for a day. And then it'll all be cleared up again. You'll start again, but every time you mess up, you will really know it, okay? Every time you make a good decision, you will really know it as a fact, as truth, as your, uh, and you will learn it and absorb it as higher knowledge, okay? Lastly, we have over here, where does this lead? Wow, Jeepers, Cancer, I'm kind of envious of you. It leads to this amazing, beautiful, like self-healing process. Is where it's like a tremendous opportunity to heal and be healed in the context of a very deeply loving type of relationship, where knowing and understanding that the alchemical processes that occur in relationships can be very grueling, can be very, very challenging, but they can also be incredibly joyful and satisfying. And you can be an inspiration to others, and they can be an inspiration to you. So you essentially become a vessel of the healing power of love for yourself and for the other, and the other party, let's say like a typical, what might feel like a marriage type partner, would feel to you like a bountiful source of alchemical healing to you. So it's mutual healing, being each other's healers. Even though this is not a relationship reading, I feel obliged to infuse it with a bit of the energy of relationship. It's still your reading, Cancer, but it's about you getting alignment with you and having very new starts and new beginnings right now. Uh, very, with the energy coming at you very, very loud and clear over here, especially when it comes to the most important relationships in your life. Okay, so let's set this out so you can have a clearer view. I hope this makes sense. I hope I didn't scare you or go over the top, but that's you at the core. Chance to start all over. That's the journey that we just described. And we'll just put this in and then I'm going to stop talking. Okay, we said enough. Okay, thank you so, so much. All the best, dear Cancer. Bye-bye.